3. Now,
Okay.
Derek and Keyshawn, I think we have to start with their beginning, because this is obvious. One of the storylines in the show in terms of the domestic violence,
Mm-hmm.
and you even talked about that when we talked about Keyshawn coming from a blended family and just the things that she had to experience. It actually led her right into the
It,
arms of Derek.
yep, took her right there.
And it also Derek and his anger issue, because if you saw that episode, it was the White Knight episode, season 2, episode 5, where he defended her honor. And so when you
Mm-hmm.
have someone where no one sticks up for me, this can seem like a very I'm glad somebody is choosing me.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
knight in shining armor type of, you know.
Yes. And what's
And
interesting is I was like, it was everything but right. So this one is the beginning. So what do you think about them being at number 3 and how
I
it
think
goes?
that was a good space for this one. Um, and so it is a good picture of how people walk around and they share things that bring them together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason why he was that angry was because wasn't he involved in violence at home? His father would beat him, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
he has all this pent up aggression, right? And this is how he has been taught to let his anger out, right? So the first person, he can't beat his father, so anybody else turns into a human punching bag. If you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I can't beat you, but I can take this out on somebody else. So
Mm-hmm.
they're going through these things, and then they end up together. One would call that trauma bonding.
Well, it actually yes. So let's go to the codependency first, because the
Okay.
when the relationship is and I'm gonna do the air quotes good. When the
Mhm.
relationship is in a good space, there is that codependency that we cannot live without each other. You make me feel good, so you're protecting me, because I haven't been protected, right, from my home or from a place or people who are supposed to protect me. You also have Derek. I am angry. You make me feel good, but I can take my anger out on you because I can't take my anger out on my dad, which is what you said. So we have that codependency first, which leaves, you had 2 teens who were coming from places of rejection. And then you have his anger issue. I'm gonna throw in her colorism. I think that played a part in it too.
I think it did.
Um,
I think it definitely did.
and then you go into trauma bonding, and sometimes people think trauma bonding is about the 2 traumas, but it's actually deeper than that. So you have two hurt people who are finding the connection, but it was also why she could not leave, because of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
bond.
Because of the bond. Yeah. Or
Correct.
why she was gonna shoot my man's
Yeah, right,
when he
right.
jumped on her, and he was like, I get him, and she was like, don't do it. I don't want to have to shoot you. Like, don't. And he was tripping. Like, no, she didn't. Like this, he beats her. Like, you know. And I think everybody was a bit surprised because remember, that's how she separated herself from the pink. Because they
Correct.
all got mad because she pulled the gun out on them. But at the
Correct.
end of the day, like you said, you had that bond, and then you have people, us, we are the people, and we walk around and not we do not take part in our mental health. We do
Right.
not um we do not acknowledge what our problems actually are. We blame them on other people. We act like they're not there, and we keep moving through life. And then we get ourselves in these situations because you're not the only one moving through life like this, right? And so if you don't even make an effort to fix these things, these are the type of situations that you get yourself into, and then you're looking up and you're like, how did this happen? How did I do this? How did this happen? How did I get here? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So definitely that was a good number for them.
What about her and the babies? Do you see the picture with her and the babies?
I did see the picture with her and the babies.
So I also put them in here because if it's not addressed, the cycle continues. And
Generational. It'll keep going.
it keeps going. And a lot of times it's hard when you are in that space because you can't really think about getting out. And when you are in that space, you need to have a plan. You can't just jump up and leave. But
Mhm.
if I'm been abused, and there is the cycle of abuse, so you have the name calling, you have the physical aggression, then you have them making up, and then sometimes you blame yourself in there. They
Mhm.
actually kind of go through that
Yep.
in that White Knight episode. Remember, he had all the roses in the room.
Yeah.
And so you say, okay, well, it was that one time, right? And thinking that it won't happen again. And it might not happen again for 6
For a
months, it
minute.
might not
Yeah.
happen again for a year. But what I do tell people is it gets worse. It'll never
It,
get better. It never
no.
lessens.
And all
Right?
it takes is one time. It might take several years for it to happen again. If somebody hits you once, they will do it again. They
Yes.
will. They will do it again. It ain't like, oh, he hit me one time. That's never going to happen again. Don't ever think that, ever. It just might take longer, but if he did it once, they'll do it again. And that's not even just for women, because men go through domestic violence too, all the
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. And so statistics, since you mentioned that 1 out of 4 women have been in situations that have abuse, and then they talk about 1 out of 10 men. And like I said, abuse doesn't always have to be physical abuse. It can be an emotional abuse, verbal abuse, but
Yeah.
abuse is abuse, and it starts subtle and it increases. And when you have children evolve, it definitely affects them directly and indirectly. In Keyshawn's case, you also saw direct effects, right? Where
Because
he,
he got to one of the kids when he was watching them. When she remember she took him to the doctor
yeah,
and lifted up and it was bruising, and he had started on those babies. So nobody is safe.
nobody is safe. Nobody
And
is
I
safe.
think we talked about too, because I know a lot of times I came from a very from a abusive household, very abusive, physically abusive. And a lot of times people get very upset and frustrated about people not leaving. But what is the statistic, Shawnee, of how many times a person in domestic violence tries to leave
So
before they
they,
actually succeed?
yeah, so they talk about the person attempts to leave on average 7 times before they
Mhm.
actually leave, and then she has a 50% chance
Going back.
I'm making it. And so I just need people to understand that. So that means as the person, I'm saying she, because right now that's what I deal with women in therapy, that when she attempts to leave, there's a 50% chance. And so it's not that she will not make it. And now I'm talking about, her life. So
Mhm.
it's a dangerous thing. And so my hope is that even with us talking about it and kind of breaking some things down, some people can kind of pay attention to some of the early signs, right? Some of the
Right.
subtle signs, because once you are in it, it is very difficult to get out. So
Well,
let's
we saw Keyshawn's attempts. And remember, she went out there with the car and then he had took the battery out, and and it was just she just looked so defeated, like I'm never gonna be able to get out of here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and Derek, very calculated, right? Very
Hmm. Oh
calculated.
yeah. Oh, now you talking about sociopaths.
Yeah, he's something else. So let's take you through some of the sorry about take you through some of this.
I can't read. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, sister, I can't read that.
No, I
Put
was
my
just
glasses back on.
so we got, again, there they are, her and her children. And just, it's just not a easy thing. Number 2. Little Murder. Yes, Little Murder is number 2, also known as Lamarcus. And I don't know if Uncle Clifford is my number 1 or Little Murder is my number 1. And I'm saying in my heart in terms of my favorite character, or even Mercedes for that. I just love all of them. But it was something about Little Murder for me that really touched my heart. And so we saw him struggle with his sexuality over the last 2 seasons. Um, you also knew that he was carrying a secret. So not just even dealing with his sexuality, but just who he is. Because to me, I saw the sensitivity in him that is often not allowed to be shown when you come from a certain environment. But
Or
he
just being a man, especially a black one.
yeah, just being a man. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like we can't cry, we can't show our emotions, we have to always be strong. We can, like it's not fair. They carry a
No,
lot.
no, they carry a lot, and that's what I said.
Mhm.
I saw Little Murder carry a lot. We saw in terms of the mental health, he was he was part of a gang, and so we just
Mhm.
know that that's usually not a positive outcome. But I often know why people seek out that connection or that family. It becomes a substitute family, becomes a form of protection when you come from situations where you did not get that protection or you did not get that feel of family. We also know that Little Murder spent time in prison, and so you have to. And he even talked about that in the final episode of season 2, where it was his light of being connected to someone. And I think for me, when I started to think about that, I said, maybe he was even questioning his sexuality. Maybe he didn't know, right? But something happened when I found myself connecting with this man, because even in prison, you have situational homosexuality where men will come out and not be with other men but engaged with other men while they were in prison. But when he talked about that light, just or now he might even say a slice of heaven, it just really made me realize like how sensitive he is, and like I want to be that person. I
Mhm.
want that to be known and seen most of the time. But if the grimy side, if the dark side is what pays me or gets me out of my situation or gets me to a status where I have money, then that's what I'm going to lean into. So what do you think about Little Murder being at number 2, or anything you want to add?
No, I think you summed it up pretty good. I think number 2 is a good spot for Little Murder. That last episode just that last episode, I was sitting there like, oh my God. Especially when we talked about that, and you was like, they was playing the music, and he was like, "You not dreaming."
Yes. Yes.
I had noticed how young. I didn't know. I knew he was younger. So he is from what I gathered from the contest clues, he's like in somewhere in his 20s, where Clifford is like in his 40s.
It is 40, correct. Yeah, he said you're half my age. And he even referenced in season 1 how young he was.
Hmm.
He called him a young in there. So I knew there was an age difference, but it seems like a significant age difference, because he said,
Yeah.
you're half my age. And they played that LTD love ballad.
Girl.
Please, if you have not read the words, please, it's such a perfect song for them. And and I'm hopefully people are getting past their own stigma and their own bias. It
Yeah.
was such a
It is a
beautiful
lot.
becoming. It was a beautiful becoming, because he
It
was
was.
one of the ones of becoming himself,
Hmm.
because you saw him trying to figure that out um throughout the last 2 seasons. And hopefully we're hoping for season 3 that we can see more of him becoming